It's not a stretch to say that John Leith-Tetrault is the most important figure in the historic tax credit world for the past several decades. Novogradac recognizes that impact by presenting John with a Lifetime Achievement Award, recognizing the enduring impact he's had on historic preservation. John is a towering figure in historic preservation.
There is no one we owe more to in the historic preservation community than to John Leith-Tetrault. John is passionate about historic preservation. You only need to speak to him for 30 seconds and you'll quickly realize that. But John isn't just passionate. His passion moves him to action. Look at his creation of NTCIC. He led NTCIC to become the force for historic preservation that it is today. But that may have been enough for many, it was not enough for John. John realized that there was great opportunity at the federal level and the state level, but there was also great risk. And he knew that the historic tax credit community needed a coalition. Once again, John wasn't just passionate about it, he acted on his passion and created the Historic Tax Credit Coalition. He reached out to folks like me and many of you, and when John called, you answered. And thanks to the Historic Tax Credit Coalition and his chairmanship of it, we navigated through some very turbulent waters. Think Great Recession, think Volcker Rule, think Historic Boardwalk Hall, think Virginia Historic Tax Credit case, and oh yeah, think about tax reform. Thanks to John's leadership and vision, we had tremendous victory last year in the tax reform debate. And yes, preservation is victory. So John, I can't think of anyone else who is more deserving of our Lifetime Achievement Award. It's a pleasure to present it to you.
John's impact is felt throughout the historic preservation community.
John Leith-Tetrault was the first major hire I made when I came to the National Trust in 1993, and he was one of the best hires I ever made in the next 17 years. We were determined to make the trust relevant to the concept of community revitalization, giving people in older historic communities the tools that they needed to revitalize their structures and homes and to make these communities more viable and more livable. And John was the perfect person to do this for the trust.
It's hard to imagine the preservation movement in the United States without John Leith-Tetrault. He has left an indelible mark across our whole country. Even people who may not know his name benefit from his vast experience and just multitudinous accomplishments over the past several decades.
I can't imagine anyone more deserving of a Lifetime Achievement Award in the historic tax credit industry. John's vision and foresight and dedication to preservation, as well as his love of the cause, is why we have a Historic Tax Credit Coalition. He was the founding chairman and chairman for most of the first decade of the coalition. He brought together members and board members and got people to pay their bills and found committee chairmen and really helped to create and drive the coalition for its first decade.
Here in Maryland, places are better off because John was involved in working to bring new life to these places and to revitalize and restore them. From the American Brewery to Tide Point, Baltimore and Maryland's past and future is brighter because John has been involved.
He answers his phone in the middle of the night, he returns emails on weekends, and I think it's a pretty well-known secret that I basically stalk him when he walks his dog in the neighborhood. I jump out and yell things like, John, the historic tax credit investor just pulled out of the Clifton Mansion project. All is lost. John, help. And John, being John, of course, does help, finds a new tax credit investor, and moves that project forward, saving yet one more great historic place in Baltimore.
John has played a leadership role in so many different areas that we care about. In historic preservation, in investments in community revitalization, and how to envision sustainability for the new future. It was my particular pleasure to work hand in glove with John last year as we preserved the historic tax credit and tax reform.
John Leith-Tetrault's career spans decades. John started his career at Bank of America in community development, particularly in affordable housing finance, which is the foundation of his career objectives. He then joined the National Trust for Historic Preservation in 1994 to determine how to create a broader nexus between historic preservation and community development. In 2000, he founded NTCIC and later founded and became chairman of the Historic Tax Credit Coalition. John played an integral role in not only the growth of the New Markets Tax Credit and Historic Tax Credit programs, but also affordable housing. One of his goals was to show that preservation was a tool that could be used to improve the lives of people living in low-income areas.
Some of my favorite contributions in my career would include founding the National Trust Community Investment Corporation in 2000. It was the Trust's first for-profit subsidiary, and it was an effort to deepen the Trust's involvement using preservation as a tool to revitalize low-income communities for the people who live there. Secondly, I think in the first round of the New Markets program, we featured a product that was new to the marketplace, twinning historic and New Markets tax credits, which was a way to develop a deeper subsidy model that would make it possible to renovate historic properties and use those properties to meet the needs of low-income people. I think, lastly, one of my proudest contributions was forming the Historic Tax Credit Coalition in 2009, which began as a small group of industry participants. We had just won some small legislative victories in Congress and thought we could build on that. And of course, the coalition went on to become a major force on the Hill, strong enough to defend the historic tax credit and retain it in the tax code as part of tax reform.
John's experience in navigating the halls of Congress during a trying time for the historic tax credit left him with wisdom to share.
We should remember we won a great victory in 2017 to keep the historic tax credit in the tax code. It had never been threatened in that way before. It was against tremendous odds. In the process, we made a lot of friends on Capitol Hill, friends who are poised to help us win back some of the things we lost in the process of keeping the tax credit in the code. So I would say that doing site visits with the members of Congress, going to the Hill, writing emails, and doing the kind of advocacy that we did for 2 years leading up to tax reform is as important today as it was then. And I think because we have these relationships on the Hill now, it'll be easier to defend any future threats to the credit. It'll also be easier to improve the credit because of the goodwill we've built up both in the Senate and the House.
As John heads into retirement, we offer congratulations for a career of making a difference in communities all over the nation.
Congratulations, John, on this well-deserved award. Indeed, you have had a lifetime of achievement in shaping the world that we live in.
So John, on behalf of all of us at Baltimore Heritage, and in fact, pretty much all of us in Baltimore, thank you for all of the wonderful contributions you've made to make our city better. Congratulations.
John, congratulations to you on this most well-deserved award.
So congratulations, John, and to all of your friends and partners who are here this morning to heap you with praise, which you so fully deserve with this Lifetime Achievement Award.
As the co-chair of the Congressional Historic Preservation Caucus and the author of legislation to strengthen the historic tax credit, John, I've deeply appreciated your partnership and leadership in helping foster historic, vibrant, and livable communities all across the country.
Thank you for your dedication to preserving and reviving our communities. Congratulations on your retirement, John.
And in something that's no surprise to those who know John, he willingly shares the wisdom earned through his unforgettable career. Here's some advice from the winner of the Novogradac Lifetime Achievement Award.
I would share a quote from Harry Truman. I never cared much personally myself about who was acknowledged as the person who achieved something. And Harry Truman once said, you can get a whole lot done if you don't care about who gets the credit. And I think that's an important message for all of us to think about.
John, thank you for being a tireless advocate for historic preservation over the years. The historic preservation community wouldn't be where it is today without your leadership, guidance, and involvement. From all of us at Novogradac and all of us in the historic preservation community, congratulations.